Just gonna give it a minute for people to come in. Okay, so I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for attending and letting us share about the Green Schoolworks request for qualifications. We have a pretty short agenda for this presentation, so there will be plenty of time for questions at the end. Just for some housekeeping, we're aiming to end this webinar at around 3:50 to give folks some transition time. We ask if you have any questions to leave them in the Q&A. We'll do our best to answer questions live following the presentation, but if we aren't able to answer any questions, we'll follow up with the attendee and also post the answers to our webpage. Introducing our program team, we have Meg Howard as the program director and Catherine Strauss and Emily Brown as the program managers. And I'm Trisha Hua. I'll be acting as the program administrator. Going over the program, we have received $60 million from the state as part of the Fair Share Amendment. The goal of the program is to provide technical assistance and implementation funding to public K-12 schools or school districts for projects that improve energy efficiency, reduce carbon emissions, or mitigate the impacts of climate change and support decarbonization planning and prioritization. To be eligible for our technical service grants or implementation grants, schools or school districts will serve a student population of 40% or more low income for one or more of the last 3 school years. And this is according to DESE's school data. And now I'll be handing it off to Catherine for the RFQ overview.
Yeah, so just a quick high-level overview of the RFQ. So we're seeking qualified vendors who can provide technical assistance services for eligible public K-12 schools and districts who want to begin or supplement their decarbonization planning. The point of this offering is to reduce the cost of technical assistance for K-12 schools and districts with the goal of making decarbonization planning more accessible. The technical assistance services, which we'll explain a little bit more about in the next slide, are aligned with the Mass Save offerings and also include an additional Green Schoolworks scope. And we also just wanted to note that just because a vendor is selected through this RFQ process does not guarantee a contract with a school to actually provide those technical assistance services. So the 3 types of technical assistance servicings, technical assistance services are a comprehensive building assessment, which is a high-level decarbonization assessment that identifies energy efficiency and electrification opportunities for a single building. A portfolio decarbonization roadmap, which is more in depth, and it's an exploration of decarbonization strategies typically for multiple buildings, such as an entire school district, with a plan to implement those changes over a long-term horizon. And then finally, a focus study, which is a detailed study of a specific energy efficiency and electrification measure that will result in actionable savings and cost estimates. And the focus study, if you're applying or if a school is applying for a Mass Save incentive, this is the study that's required by Mass Save to determine how much of an incentive they'll receive. And then this is the additional Green Schoolworks scope, and it has 2 main parts: an on-site renewable energy feasibility analysis of an existing building or buildings and sites, and a Mass Class 1 renewable energy certificate analysis. And then if a vendor is proposing an additional scope, we'll be approving that on a case-by-case basis. And now I'll pass it over to Emily.
So this slide is pretty detailed, but it provides some more information on the cost sharing. So for a Mass Save eligible participant for the comprehensive building assessment, when the school is using a pre-qualified Mass Save vendor, Mass Save will cover 100% of that cost, and then we will cover 100% of the Green School Works added scope. That means there's no cost to the school. If a Mass Save eligible school chooses not to use a pre-qualified Mass Save vendor, Mass Save will cover 25% of the base scope. We would cover 50, and then we would cover 100% of our renewable scope. So that still leaves 25% of the base scope for the school. And then in the case of a portfolio decarbonization roadmap, if the school selects a pre-qualified Mass Save vendor, again, 100% of their costs are covered. And similarly, if they choose a non-Mass Save vendor, they will have some cost to cover themselves. And then that's the same with the focus study. And then in the case of a school that's not Mass Save eligible, we will be picking up 100% of the cost, no matter the task. So this just breaks it down a little bit more visually, but as you can see for example CBA, in the case where a Mass Save vendor was selected by an eligible school, 100% of their costs are covered. If they select a non-Mass Save vendor, they're picking up a little over $3,000, we estimate. And then for an MLP school with any vendor, Mass CEC would pay 100%. And then it's the same here with the portfolio decarbonization roadmap. So for the pre-qualified Mass Save vendor, it's 50-50 on the base scope, and then we're picking up the additional Mass Save renewable scope. For a non-Mass Save vendor, the school is estimated to have around $50,000 to pay themselves. And then in the case of a MLP or a non-Mass Save eligible school, again, we're picking up 100% of that scope. And so just an overview of the timeline. We released the RFQ on the 14th. If you have any questions following the webinar, they are due by the 26th. And we're going to post questions with answers by March 31st. And then the statement of qualifications is due on the 4th by 11:59. And then we plan to review the 4th through the 18th, and we will notify qualified eligible vendors and post on our website on April 22nd. And then if you don't get if vendors don't get pre-qualified, but they have a school that they're going to be working with, we will accept them on a rolling basis, but there has to be a project tied to it. Yeah, I think that is it, but we are happy to answer your questions. If you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you, or we can if you want to use the Q&A feature, we can answer them there. I see Laura has a raised hand. Laura, if you want to ask your question, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
No worries. What was your question?
I didn't have one.
Oh, you didn't have one. Sorry. I thought you meant to unmute and you couldn't. Okay. So Emre. I think you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, is that, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've done a lot of work in schools. Primarily, we optimize all the coolers and freezers in schools. And is this something that we would be able to pursue and target? We've probably done about 200 schools already in Massachusetts, and I know there's about 2,500 public and private. So I wanted to find out if that's something we'd be able to pursue in this program.
So the scopes are all listed in attachment D. So really we're looking for like comprehensive studies about how schools can decarbonize, which your work could be a part of, but I'm not sure if you do the other pieces. I think you'd have to review that, or we can talk more offline if you're unsure.
Okay, I will.
It does sound like maybe if that's the piece you would like to be the lead on, a focus study could be the right place for you to focus on, no pun intended, just because that can be for an individual measure. Unlike what Emily said, the comprehensive building assessment and the portfolio roadmap or decarbonization roadmap are really meant to be looking at the building holistically.
I understand.
I saw a question in the chat from Karina that I know my colleague Catherine's already answered, but just to say it out loud, because I think it's an important point and I want to make sure it's clear to folks that if there is a non-mass save eligible school, so we're talking about a school served by a municipal light plant that isn't also served by mass save, in that case, we'll cover 100% of the cost for eligible school. If at least 40% of that school students are low income, based on Department of Elementary and Secondary Education data, we'd cover 100% of the costs in that case.
Sorry, I see Karina has a question. I think you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. Sorry, one more. So it seems like you guys intentionally used wording to mimic the mass save technical assistance studies. So the CBA's like mimics the CBA, the decarb roadmap. I'm assuming that mimics like was it task 5.4 decarb roadmap, and then the focus studies mimic, I think it's task 3, the focus studies. Is it safe to assume that if we've been accepted as a mass save vendor for whatever tasks, those are the ones that we should apply for mass CEC, so that like when we do it for mass save and if we do it for a school, we have the option of also completing the school projects with CEC funding?
Yeah, and I would also say that if you think you can do more than what you were approved for through mass save, that's still helpful, because in the case that you want to do a non-mass save school, mass CEC would pay for 100% of the scope, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But
And
Karina,
then-
just one more point on that. You'll see in the application, if you get to it, you can indicate if you're a mass save approved vendor, and if so, for what tasks. Your question is making me think we should post an FAQ about how our tasks, I will check this with mass save, but how our tasks crosswalk to the numbers in their RFP. So we'll confirm that that's okay from their point of view, but if so, we'll post that in writing just to remove any uncertainty. I think if you look in our attachment D, where we outline the scope, you'll see a lot of familiar language from Mass Save's RFP. And like you said, Karina, we really did try and build on their offering. So it's just best experience for the schools, that it all seems seamless from their point of view. But in our application, you'll see if you're an approved Mass Save vendor for a certain task, you don't need to provide us like as much detail. We'll assume that you've got that covered if you're on their approved list.
Amazing. Thank you.
Is there a requirement that applicants be in-state mass entities only? No. And then when you talk about mass save vendors, is that just for contractors, or is there a process for other vendor types too? I'm not sure about this. Vicky, if you want to raise your hand and explain, maybe we can answer. Sorry. Okay, you should be able to unmute.
Hello, I'm with Elevated Design, and we're consulting engineers, and so we do a lot of the energy efficiency, like roadmap sort of ideas, but we wouldn't be installing any equipment. So I didn't know if there's a process for us to be pre-qualified as well.
Yeah, no, this is not for installation. This is just for the technical assistance portion. So yeah, definitely there's an opportunity for you to be qualified.
Do you have any idea where to point me? I'm only finding things online for like HERS rater qualification and contractor qualifications.
Sorry, do you mean for go ahead.
To be mass save pre-qualified. I'm not finding the process to become pre-qualified.
Oh, I meant you can still, I'm not sure. I guess we could, I think we could give you the contacts to reach out to. I'm not sure how you would get pre-qualified.
Mass Save has completed already a RFP process to bring on their own. They're calling it under the umbrella of C&I, commercial industrial, technical assistance vendors. That process has wrapped up. We will take a question back to our contacts there, like if there's folks like Elevated Design that weren't involved in that would like to be, if there's a process for that, and circle back to you, maybe not in our FAQ because it's not about our opportunity. Well, we'll circle back and make sure that answer gets to you. But regardless, what I would say is whether or not you are a pre-qualified mass save vendor, we'd welcome and encourage you to apply to be on the Green Schoolworks list. But definitely hearing the question that you'd like to figure out how to be on the mass save list, if that's still possible.
Great, thank you so much.
If approved as a vendor, how does matching with schools work? So in the case of a mass save, if you're a mass save vendor already, the mass save team will kind of work to coordinate with them to make sure the vendor they select for the school can do the mass CEC additional scope. They generally, I think, give schools like 3 vendors to choose from. And then if it's a if the school is not a mass save customer, then they're able to choose based on the list of pre-qualified vendors for mass EC. You can raise your hand if that doesn't answer your question. Okay.
And I'll just add, because I can't remember, we may have said this, if not, it's in the RFQ, but we'll be publishing a list of the mass CEC qualified vendors on our website. So that's how schools who are not mass save eligible would find qualified vendors' names.
It looks like Riley has a question, if you want to unmute.
Hi, I just have sort of a clarifying question. So our team, we have one of our sort of like subs or one of our team members is from a different organization and they're mass save qualified, but we're not, and we're technically sort of like applying as the prime. Similar to that question in the Q&A, does that mean that our team is then mass save qualified because they are, or not, since we as the prime are not? I don't think.
think I want to take that question and just confirm internally and with Mass Save that, so I'm not going to answer it live. We'll make sure we get back to you in writing, but just so I'm sure I understand the question. You have a partner who is on the Mass Save pre-qualified vendor list, but your organization would like to apply for Mass CEC as the prime, not the partner.
Yes.
And you just want to make sure that's going to work.
Yes.
Okay, let us get back to you, and yeah, I just want to talk that over with Mass Save so I'm not giving any false information, but great question, and we'll get back to you on that one.
Well, thanks.
Before we go back, I see some questions in the chat. If the question is if me or my collaborator has experience in the renewable energy system feasibility, but is only able to help with this scope, are we still encouraged to apply? We are, if you look through the scopes of work, we do want folks who can provide, for like the comprehensive building assessment, is pretty comprehensive. So what I would encourage you there is to look for a partner. I don't know, stalk the participant list here, reach out for a partner. We are looking for people who can provide the complete scopes. If you can't find a partner, you could email us separately and we can think about helping with matchmaking, but I can't guarantee that. But we are looking for some folks who can complete each of you don't have to be able to do all of the comprehensive building assessments, decarbonization, roadmaps, and focus studies, but you have to be able to do to apply, you have to be able to do each one of those. Sorry, I keep saying this. You have to be able to do the whole task within each of those areas. Then the next question here is, when would you envision heating load calculations and preliminary heating system design fitting into the scopes when the types of studies only cover ASHRAE 1 or 2 audits? Let me get back to this question, also not live. I want to double check what is in that attachment D scope and confirm if heating load calc or preliminary heating system design would in any way be part of a comprehensive building assessment. I want to double check that before we give a definitive answer.
Laura, it looks like you have a question if you want to unmute.
Yeah, so one of the items that you guys are looking for in that statement of qualifications was up to 3 report samples. If we were applying for all 3, the focus study, the CBA, and the decarbonization roadmap, would you be looking for an example for each separate scope, or if we, I guess some clarification on that would be helpful.
I think if you feel like the 3 report examples, sort of are general enough that they show your capabilities of doing all 3 scopes, then 3 total would be fine. And I think we put in some language there into the request for those reports of like, if they're available, and recognizing we want something substantially similar, that some of these exact specific scopes are new offerings from Mass Save and certainly from us. So if you feel like you have reports that are sort of general enough that they show your capability of doing any of the 3 tasks, then 3 total is fine.
Thanks.
But I guess my only addendum there, if you wanted to submit more than 3 to really particularly show your ability to do one or the other of the tasks, that would also be fine. Looks like we, I think I've answered all the questions in the Q&A. I don't see any raised hands, but I'm just gonna give another moment if anyone feels like we didn't get to your question in the Q&A, or just give you a moment to think of any last questions before we sign off. As you all are thinking, just a reminder, this isn't your last chance. You can email us at any point before March 31st, or through March 31st. You can, sorry, I misspoke. You can email us through the 26th, and we'll have answers up by the 31st. So, oh, one more question from Laura. Let's see.
Sorry, within the CBA timeline, you guys have listed that the expectation would be to receive. It looks like, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, that the work would be complete within 2 weeks of receiving notice to proceed for Mass Save.
Yes, that's what's in there, and that's pulling language from Mass Save. So sort of aligning with that timeline. I believe there is a place in our application where we let you, we give a schedule narrative. So if you wanted to make a note, we have a ask for estimated completion timeline from the point of, we've signed the contract, we've given the go ahead. How long do you think it will take to do a task? So for CBA, if you feel like it's more than 2 weeks, you can note that in the budget and schedule table, and then in the schedule narrative, just explain why it is, and we can refer, we can talk that over. I think this is a new, I can't speak for Mass Save, and this is a new offering from them and certainly from us. So if you feel like something's not workable, let us know and we'll see what we can do.
Great.
One more question from Andrew.
Hello. Thank you very much for the information. I had a question regarding you'd like on the attachment B hourly rates, and are these hourly rates 2025 through the end of 2027 with an escalation base associated with them, or are these fees locked in for the 3-year duration of the process?
That's a great question. I want to get back to that one. I want to double check before I answer that one, but we'll definitely get back to you. That's a great question.
And just to clarify on a previous note, even if we don't submit through this current application process, but we are working with the school and they want to pursue this, we could, basically become a qualified vendor after the fact if we have a teaming school that would like to use us. Was that correct?
Yeah, so you all are the proactive people who are on our webinar. You're in a good position to apply now, and then that, assuming you look like you meet our qualifications that we're looking for, you'll be on our website, so that can be an advantage. But if you decide, we're busy, we can't submit this now, it will be open on a rolling basis, but only if folks come in with a real partner school. So if someone, was too busy or missed this opportunity to apply, we still will look at your qualifications, but only then if you have a school, an eligible school is like, yes, I want to work with XYZ company. At that point, we would then look at this information and get you qualified.
Okay, thank you very much.
It looks like we've got another question in the chat from Laura. Will all of the questions and answers from this session be answered in addition to the questions submitted on Wednesday? So Yeah, we'll be posting all of the questions and responses to the website by, what did we say, by the 31st, including the questions that have been asked verbally during the webinar.
All right, let me do one last check in the Q&A. Seeing no more questions, no more hands, I think we'll wrap things up for today, give you some time back. But really appreciate all your interests and look forward to seeing your responses if this is the right opportunity for you. And please do send us any other questions you think of after the fact through the 26th. Thanks, everyone. Take care.